can go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for coming. I'm Micah Bateman. This is our inaugural Poets and Scholars reading. The Poets and Scholars reading series is put on by UT's Poetry and Poetics Interest Group as part of an effort to bring together the poetry inclined among us from the various academic and creative programs at UT, and also from the wider Austin community and the wider national community and global community of poets. It's my pleasure to introduce our first readers of the new term, but before I do that, thanks to Malvern Books for hosting us tonight and for being such an important hub for literary fellowship here in Austin. One of our readers, Lisa Lynn Moore, has an incredible chapbook for sale, which you can see on the table, 24 Hours with Men, which is the most amazing title one could possibly imagine. So please do consider, if you're able and inclined, purchasing a copy, which supports both Lisa's practice and the independent chapbook press and this incredible independent bookstore. A preview of some other happenings later this semester from Poets and Scholars. Our next reading will be on campus on March 7th, and will feature poets Travis Lau, Johan Sarna, and Zoe Burstein-Illingworth. Then we'll have another event on April 5th featuring Roger Reeves, Patrick Ryan Frank, and Chessie Normile. And finally, we'll conclude the semester series with an evening back here at Malvern on April 30th, which will feature a visiting poet Joshua Edwards and Danielle Wheeler and Sarah Matt. So please look for information from me about those amazing events. Without further ado, I'll introduce our first reader. Raye Hendrix is a poet from Alabama who loves cats, crystals, and classic rock. Raye is the online content and web editor for Bat City Review and is pursuing her MFA at the University of Texas at Austin. Her recent work can be found in Southern Indiana Review, the Chattahoochee Review, Shenandoah, The Pinch, and elsewhere. And she was also too modest to mention that she was last year a finalist for UT's Keene Prize, which is a huge deal. Please welcome Raye Hendrix.
Okay, well now I'm kind of embarrassed. Hi. Hi. So yeah, I'm from Alabama, and I'm bisexual and from a farm, and my mother's chronically ill, and I'm clinically depressed. So all of that's going to show up in the 4 poems that I'm about to read. Just fair warning. We do end on a funny note, I think. Awkward. All right. Okay, this one's called The Epithets of Local Shells. That was the night my mother burned my father's birthday dinner. But let me start again. My mother's hands were small, barely large enough to hold. But she could hold shells, so that night I brought her what I'd found in the river, the hard skins of mussels. I gave them reverently as treasure, the empty husks opening like lungs or cartoon hearts in the soft bowl of her palm. Crude calcium butterflies, beautiful only to me and her. She taught me their names. These pale ones are pink mucket. These are pig toes. The black ones are called heel splitters. They're the ones your father hates. While dinner cooked, she pulled me in her lap. That was the year my father worked late every night, but not because he wanted to. That was the year there were layoffs and he needed to prove his worth because we didn't have much money and my mother couldn't find a job. But that's not what she told me. She didn't tell me anything at all. That year, my father's birthday fell in the middle of the week, and he didn't make it home in time to eat. My mother touched a mussel, iridescent. This one is my favorite, painted creek shell, and the kitchen began to slowly fill with smoke. Yeah, it's really warm. Oh my god, I'm so awkward. Okay. Okay, so this one's called Growing Pains. In the 11th year of illness, the 3rd since her doctor started saying terminal instead of chronic, my mother tells me it's amazing what a person can get used to. What she means, of course, is I am accustomed to the pain of what my body's growing, but she might as well have said, daughter, your mother was never yours to keep. What she means, of course, is what I've learned myself. Those words that once were bitter antiseptics I spit quickly from my mouth now live there like the loose aching teeth of a toddler looking for something to gnaw. Sarcoid tumors, chemo drugs, death, most noticeably sore when not in use. With my sister, the acceptance comes easier. What I mean is, she is a scientific woman who deals in scientific words. She was born with all her grown-up teeth. What I mean is, unlike me, she too is a mother who doesn't want to live without her children, wants them someday to lay flowers on her grave. And of course, despite all this, they both still believe in heaven. And of course, even though I don't, I think my mother must be right. I say sterile words now as easily as love or flowers. What I mean is, love is a word I have always found difficult to say. One more really sad one, and then I promise I have something funny. If anyone watches Supernatural, I'm kind of obsessed with it. It's a TV show about brothers who hunt monsters, and it's fun. It's so nerdy, but I love it. And this poem is called Advanced Thanatology, which means the study or the advanced study of death, and it's taken completely from one of their episodes, so don't tell them. Okay, Advanced Thanatology. Most days I imagine my death in color or as an itchy ache, tangible as the calamus of goose feather needling through the fabric of the blanket on my bed, discomfort taking the place of warmth. For example, the dream of my death is a study in red where I am young and my mother is always there, insistent as the sunrise and alive, by which I mean her existence in that dream is the reason I have never been able to believe I will grow old. The most natural thing in life, I'm told, is a child will bury her parents, not the other way around. So it must be that I am not as God intended, my wants unnatural and crude. For example, I didn't love that blanket till it hurt me, and after that I couldn't sleep without the ache. For example, I didn't know I feared my mother until I realized I would age. Okay. All right, here's the funny one. Do y'all remember that, like, the 5 Love Languages book that came out by, like, a preacher, like, 10 years ago? That was kind of bullshit. Well, this poem is called The 5 Love Languages by Reverend Gary Chapman, a respectable Christian man. Okay. 1. The next time my mother tells me I am difficult to love, my nature is unlovable, will frighten away respectable Christian men, I will say, good. 2. Though I never have before, for you I will wear sunscreen. During planting and at harvest, regularly check for inconsistent moles. I will steal the unripe plums from the farmer's tree next door, since you live in the suburbs without fruit and like the pain beneath your jaw when you eat something too sour. 3. You are not a respectable Christian man. You do not own white shirts with well-starched collars, use words like synergy, or smoke classy sweet cigars. On Saturdays, we drink too much and wear too little. On Sunday mornings, we worship in the temple of your small blue bathroom, hold each other's hair back as we kneel before the throne. 4. When we move in together, out of wedlock, against both our families' wishes, we adopt a shelter cat behind the landlord's back. You let me name her, and I say the next one's yours. 1 year later, we get another cat, and I name that one too. 5. You work in a restaurant, and I hate what birth control does to my tits, so we devote a dresser drawer to bulk bought condoms and boxes of Plan B. You label an envelope abortion fund and fill it with your tips. 6. Fuck the 5 love languages. For you, I break the rules.